If you want to understand why men over 60 are experiencing muscle loss that no amount of protein powder can reverse, don't look at your workout routine. Don't look at your calorie intake. Look at what's missing from your morning smoothie. One ancient seed that costs less than $5 can restore the hormonal signal your muscles have been waiting for. Hi, I'm Dr. Liana. I'm an emergency medicine physician and hormone metabolism researcher. And what I'm about to share challenges everything you've been told about testosterone decline being an inevitable part of aging. Here's a statistic that should make every man over 60 pay attention. By age 65, the average man has lost between 30 and 40% of his peak testosterone levels. But here's what most doctors won't tell you. That decline is not programmed into your DNA. It's a metabolic response to specific deficiencies your body is experiencing right now. And the research shows you can reverse it starting tomorrow morning with one ingredient most men walk right past in the grocery store. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact compound that clinical studies demonstrate can increase testosterone by up to 40% in men over 60. I'm going to walk you through the precise mechanisms at the cellular level. And I'm going to give you the exact protocol, including timing, dosage, and the critical preparation method that makes the difference between modest results and transformative ones. Most men over 60 have been told the same story. Testosterone drops with age, muscle mass declines, energy fades, libido decreases, and your job is to accept it as the natural consequence of getting older. Maybe take testosterone replacement therapy if levels drop low enough. But after nearly 15 years practicing emergency medicine and studying metabolic hormone regulation, I've observed something that completely contradicts that passive acceptance. The men I see in the emergency department with the most severe metabolic decline, the ones experiencing muscle wasting, cognitive fog, cardiovascular events, they're not suffering from chronological aging. They're suffering from hormonal starvation at the cellular level. And the tragedy is that the conventional approach completely misses the root cause. Let me explain what's actually happening inside your body right now. Think of testosterone production like a factory. Not a simple factory, but a sophisticated manufacturing plant with multiple production stages. It starts in your brain. The hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary gland. The pituitary releases luteinizing hormone. That hormone travels through your bloodstream to your testes, and only then do specialized cells called Leydig cells begin producing testosterone. Now here's the critical part most people never understand. In young men, this factory runs at maximum capacity. The signals are strong. The Leydig cells are responsive. Production is robust. But after age 40, something changes. The hypothalamus starts sending weaker signals. The pituitary becomes less responsive. The Leydig cells lose sensitivity to luteinizing hormone. And even when testosterone is produced, more of it gets converted into estrogen through an enzyme called aromatase. The conventional medical approach looks at this decline and says, well, that's aging. Let's just replace the missing testosterone with injections or gels. But that approach completely ignores why the factory shut down in the first place. It's like seeing a power plant go offline, and instead of fixing the generator, you just run extension cords from the neighboring city. It might provide temporary power, but it doesn't address the fundamental problem. And here's what makes it worse. When you introduce external testosterone, your body detects those elevated levels and responds by shutting down natural production even further. Your hypothalamus thinks, we have plenty of testosterone, no need to send production signals anymore. Your Leydig cells atrophy from disuse. You become dependent on external sources, and if you ever stop, your natural production is worse than when you started. But what if instead of replacing testosterone, you could restore the signals that tell your body to produce it naturally? What if you could reactivate the Leydig cells that have gone dormant? What if you could block the enzyme that's converting your testosterone into estrogen? That's exactly what one specific seed compound does. And the research demonstrating this effect is not testimonial. It is peer-reviewed, mechanistic, and increasingly well-replicated. The compound I'm talking about is found in fenugreek seeds. Now, before you dismiss this as another wellness industry fad, let me be very clear about something. Fenugreek has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years, yes. But what is new, what has emerged from the research over the last decade, is the precise understanding of how specific compounds in these seeds interact with your testosterone production pathway at the molecular level. And the population that proves this works exists right now in regions where fenugreek consumption is a daily dietary staple. In India, where fenugreek is consumed regularly as both seed and leafy green, men over 60 maintain testosterone levels that would be considered exceptional in Western populations. A cross-cultural study comparing testosterone levels in Indian men versus American men of the same age found Indian men averaged free testosterone levels nearly 28% higher, despite similar body mass index and activity levels. Now that difference has nothing to do with genetics. When Indian men adopt Western dietary patterns, their testosterone levels decline to match Western averages within 2 generations. What that tells us is that something in the traditional diet, something specific and measurable, is preserving hormonal function that Western men are losing. Let me walk you through exactly what happens when you consume fenugreek and why it works when other approaches fail. This is where the science gets fascinating and where you'll understand why this isn't just another supplement promise. Mechanism 1: luteinizing hormone amplification. Fenugreek contains a group of compounds called furanolinic saponins. These are steroidal compounds, but not the kind you're thinking of. They don't provide external hormones. Instead, they act on your hypothalamus and pituitary gland, the command centers that control testosterone production. When you consume these saponins, they cross the blood-brain barrier and bind to receptors in your hypothalamus. This binding triggers an increase in gonadotropin-releasing hormone. That hormone travels the short distance to your pituitary gland and stimulates release of luteinizing hormone. And luteinizing hormone is the direct signal that tells your Leydig cells to manufacture testosterone. Think of it like this. Your Leydig cells are a construction crew waiting for work orders. In youth, work orders come in constantly. By age 60, the dispatch center has gone quiet. The crew is still there, still capable, but they're not receiving instructions. Furanolinic saponins essentially restart the dispatch center. They don't do the construction work themselves. They restore the communication system that tells your existing crew to get back to work. Researchers at the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor in Texas recruited 60 men between the ages of 25 and 52 with resistance training experience and measured baseline testosterone levels using liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, the gold standard for hormone measurement. Half the group received 500 milligrams of fenugreek extract daily. The other half received placebo. After 8 weeks, the fenugreek group showed significant increases in both total and free testosterone, with some participants experiencing increases of up to 46% in free testosterone levels. Mechanism 2: aromatase inhibition. Even when your body produces testosterone, you face another problem. An enzyme called aromatase converts testosterone into estradiol, a form of estrogen. This conversion happens primarily in fat tissue. And here's the cruel irony. As men age and gain abdominal fat, they have more aromatase activity. More testosterone gets converted to estrogen. Higher estrogen signals the hypothalamus to reduce testosterone production further. You enter a downward spiral. Fenugreek contains compounds that inhibit aromatase activity. Specifically, a flavonoid called apigenin and several other polyphenolic compounds bind to the aromatase enzyme and reduce its ability to convert testosterone into estrogen. This means more of the testosterone your body produces stays as testosterone instead of being converted into the hormone working against you. Think of aromatase like a toll booth on the highway. Testosterone is trying to reach your muscle cells, your brain, your cardiovascular system. But every time it passes the toll booth, some of it gets diverted off the main road and converted into estrogen. Apigenin from fenugreek essentially closes that toll booth. More testosterone completes the journey to where it's needed. A study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition examined 49 resistance-trained men divided into treatment and placebo groups. The treatment group received 600 milligrams of fenugreek extract daily for 12 weeks. Researchers measured not just total testosterone, but also estradiol levels and the testosterone to estrogen ratio. The fenugreek group showed a statistically significant reduction in estrogen levels and improvement in the testosterone to estrogen ratio, indicating reduced aromatase activity. Mechanism 3, sex hormone binding globulin reduction. Here's something most men don't understand about testosterone. When we measure testosterone in your blood, we're measuring two forms. Bound testosterone, which is attached to a carrier protein called sex hormone binding globulin, and free testosterone, which circulates unattached. Only free testosterone can actually enter your cells and produce effects. Bound testosterone is biologically inactive. It's like having money in a locked account. It shows up on your balance sheet, but you can't spend it. As men age, sex hormone-binding globulin levels increase. More testosterone gets locked up in the bound form. Less remains free and active. You can have total testosterone levels that look normal on a blood test, but still experience all the symptoms of low testosterone because your free testosterone is depleted. Fenugreek reduces sex hormone-binding globulin levels through a mechanism that involves insulin sensitization. When you consume fenugreek, compounds including 4-hydroxyisoleucine improve insulin signaling in liver cells. Better insulin sensitivity leads to reduced production of sex hormone-binding globulin. Less binding protein means more free testosterone. Think of sex hormone-binding globulin like a parking enforcement officer who puts boots on cars. The testosterone vehicles are there, but they can't drive anywhere because they're immobilized. Fenugreek sends that enforcement officer on extended leave. Suddenly, all those parked testosterone molecules are free to drive to muscle cells, to the brain, to all the tissues that need them. Researchers at the Australian Centre for Integrative Clinical and Molecular Medicine conducted a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial with 120 healthy men aged 43 to 70. Participants received 600 milligrams of fenugreek extract or placebo daily for 12 weeks. Blood analysis showed the fenugreek group experienced significant increases in free testosterone, while sex hormone-binding globulin levels decreased measurably, confirming the liberation of bound testosterone into active form. Mechanism 4, Leydig cell sensitization. Remember the construction crew analogy? The Leydig cells waiting for work orders? It's not just that the signals get weaker with age. The cells themselves become less responsive to the signals they do receive. This is called receptor desensitization. The luteinizing hormone receptors on Leydig cells lose sensitivity. Even when luteinizing hormone arrives, the cells don't respond as vigorously. Fenugreek appears to restore receptor sensitivity through antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. Chronic inflammation in testicular tissue damages Leydig cells and impairs their function. Compounds in fenugreek, particularly trigonelline and diosgenin, reduce inflammatory markers in testicular tissue and protect Leydig cells from oxidative damage. Healthier cells with functioning receptors respond more powerfully to the same luteinizing hormone signal. It's like the difference between a radio receiver with corroded connections versus one with clean contacts. The signal is the same strength, but the corroded receiver can barely pick it up while the clean one receives it loud and clear. Fenugreek cleans the connections. Your Leydig cells start hearing the production signals they were missing. Here is the exact protocol based on what the clinical research tells us. The dose that appears consistently across successful studies is 500 to 600 milligrams of standardized fenugreek extract daily, or if you're using whole seeds, approximately 10 grams, which is 2 heaping teaspoons. But here's the critical detail most people miss. You cannot just swallow whole fenugreek seeds and expect results. The active compounds are locked inside a hard seed coat that your digestive system cannot break down efficiently. If you consume whole seeds without preparation, most of them will pass through your system intact. The bioavailability is close to zero. The preparation method that maximizes bioavailability is overnight soaking, followed by blending. Take 2 teaspoons of whole fenugreek seeds. Place them in a glass with approximately 1 cup of room temperature water. Let them soak for at least 8 hours, ideally overnight. The seeds will absorb water and swell to nearly double their size. The hard seed coat softens and begins to break down. Compounds start leaching into the water. In the morning, do not drain the water. That water now contains dissolved compounds you don't want to waste. Pour the entire contents, seeds and soaking water, into your morning smoothie. Add your usual smoothie ingredients. Blend thoroughly until the seeds are completely pulverized into a fine consistency. This mechanical breakdown, combined with the pre-soaking, ensures maximum release and absorption of the furanolinic saponins and other active compounds. Timing matters significantly. Consume this smoothie first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Here's why. Testosterone production follows a circadian rhythm. Your body produces the highest testosterone levels in the early morning, typically between 6 and 8 a.m. By consuming fenugreek at this time, you're providing the raw materials and signaling compounds when your natural production machinery is already active. You're amplifying a process that's already trying to happen rather than fighting against your body's natural rhythm. Additionally, consuming fenugreek on an empty stomach ensures rapid absorption without competition from other foods. If you eat it with a heavy meal, particularly one high in fiber, absorption slows, and some compounds may bind to other food components and pass through unabsorbed. Here are 6 critical details from clinical practice that separate modest results from transformative ones. First, consistency is non-negotiable. The effects are dose-dependent and cumulative. Missing days breaks the momentum. Your luteinizing hormone levels need sustained signaling to maintain elevated production. Second, combine fenugreek with adequate dietary cholesterol. Your body synthesizes testosterone from cholesterol. If you're following an extremely low-fat diet, you're limiting the raw material your Leydig cells need, regardless of how strong the production signal is. Include eggs, full-fat dairy if tolerated, or other cholesterol sources in your overall diet. Third, resistance training amplifies the effects exponentially. The combination of fenugreek-induced hormonal signaling plus the mechanical stress of lifting weights creates a synergistic muscle-building response that neither intervention produces alone. Aim for 2 to 3 resistance training sessions weekly, focusing on compound movements. Fourth, manage your body fat percentage. Remember the aromatase problem. Excess abdominal fat contains high levels of aromatase enzyme. Even with fenugreek's inhibitory effects, if you're carrying significant visceral fat, you're fighting an uphill battle. You don't need to be shredded, but reducing waist circumference to below 40 inches significantly reduces aromatase activity. Fifth, monitor your response with blood work. Get baseline measurements of total testosterone, free testosterone, and sex hormone binding globulin before starting. Retest after 8 weeks. This allows you to see objective confirmation of what's happening and make adjustments if needed. Some men respond robustly to 500 milligrams. Others need the full 600 milligrams to see maximum benefit. Sixth, be patient with the timeline. You may notice increased energy and improved mood within the first week. Those are early neurological effects from changing hormone levels. But measurable muscle mass changes require sustained elevated testosterone over weeks to months. The muscle-building machinery takes time to rev up. Expect to see visible body composition changes between weeks 8 and 16. Now, let me give you the 5 mistakes that will completely undermine your results. Mistake 1. Using poor quality fenugreek. Not all fenugreek seeds are equal. Old seeds that have been sitting in warehouse storage lose potency. Seeds exposed to heat and light degrade. Buy organic whole fenugreek seeds from a reputable source with high turnover. Store them in an airtight container in a cool, dark place. Mistake 2. Insufficient water intake. Fenugreek has a mild diuretic effect and increases metabolic water demand. If you're not drinking adequate water, you'll experience headaches, constipation, and reduced effectiveness. Aim for at least half your body weight in ounces of water daily while using fenugreek. Mistake 3. Expecting testosterone replacement therapy results overnight. Fenugreek stimulates natural production. That process takes time. Men coming off testosterone replacement therapy need to understand that recovery of natural production is gradual. Don't abandon the protocol after 2 weeks because you don't feel like you did on injections. Mistake 4, neglecting sleep. Testosterone production happens primarily during deep sleep. If you're only sleeping 5 hours nightly, fenugreek cannot overcome that deficit. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. The combination of fenugreek signaling plus adequate sleep is when restoration happens. Mistake 5, consuming fenugreek with blood sugar spiking foods. Fenugreek improves insulin sensitivity, but if you're blending it into a smoothie loaded with fruit juice and added sugars, you're creating an insulin spike that counteracts the benefits. Keep your smoothie protein-focused with low glycemic additions like berries, greens, nut butter, and unsweetened protein powder. Let me bring it all together clearly. Your testosterone decline is not an inevitable sentence. It is a metabolic response to missing signals and accumulated damage. Fenugreek provides 4 distinct mechanisms that address root causes rather than just masking symptoms. Luteinizing hormone amplification restarts the production signal. Aromatase inhibition prevents testosterone conversion to estrogen. Sex hormone-binding globulin reduction liberates bound testosterone into active form. And Leydig cell protection restores receptor sensitivity. The research is not ambiguous. Multiple peer-reviewed studies demonstrate 40 to 46% increases in free testosterone in men using 500 to 600 milligrams of fenugreek extract daily. That is not a modest effect. That is the difference between low normal testosterone and optimized levels. That is the difference between struggling to maintain muscle mass and building lean tissue like you did decades ago. You have far more control over your hormonal health than you've been led to believe. These production systems exist in you right now. The Leydig cells are still there. The receptors still function. The machinery hasn't disappeared. It's simply been running on idle because it stopped receiving the signals it needs to operate. And you can send those signals starting tomorrow morning with 2 teaspoons of soaked fenugreek seeds in your smoothie. That costs less than $5. It requires 5 minutes of preparation the night before, and it addresses the root cause that no amount of external testosterone can fix. The body you will have in 12 months is being built by the hormonal environment you create, consistently starting right now. I see messages from people who've watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Could you check right now? It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel reach more men who are being told their declining testosterone is just something they have to accept when the research clearly shows otherwise. If this information was valuable to you, I need you to do one more thing. Share this video with another man over 60 who's experiencing low energy, muscle loss, or declining vitality. Most men have never heard that natural testosterone restoration is possible. They think their only options are acceptance or risky hormone replacement. This information could genuinely change someone's trajectory. In my next video, I'm breaking down the second compound you can add to your morning routine that works synergistically with fenugreek to optimize growth hormone production. Growth hormone and testosterone together create an anabolic environment that makes age-related muscle loss nearly impossible. That video goes live in 3 days. Dr. Liana out. Word count, 3,500 words exactly.